Hey everybody, this is Brian here. Just want to take a quick minute before this episode begins to give you a heads up about some audio issues we've had with our guest Luke this week. The trouble was on our end, it was no fault of his own, but I just wanted to make you guys aware in case the audio gets a little wonky from time to time. We hope you enjoy the show, and we appreciate Luke being a guest this week. Take care.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we're breaking down movies of the Marine Corps 1 minute at a time. Today we're doing minute number 83 of Heartbreak Ridge. I'm Jack.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Luke.
Welcome back, Luke. It's good to have you, man. It was a joke, about how every minute's a good minute, but this one's a pretty good one too.
Yeah, I like this one.
And fuck you, Billy. So yeah, this was interesting. We can discuss this one. We know a little bit more about the making of the scene that we didn't know before we talked to Mr. Pete Koch. So
yeah, the big guy at the end, Luke, that's scared to jump out of the airplane, or it's actually a helicopter. He's the actor Pete Koch, and we actually just recently interviewed him about this scene and a few others.
Oh, that's cool.
So the minute begins with them going through a pre-mission brief. It ends with a little humorous discussion about falling out of aircraft.
Yeah, or voluntarily exiting them.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, I just want to double down on what Perry said, and welcome back.
Yeah, it's really great to be here. I like the freedom to say what I want and know I don't have to edit it.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Before we dive too deep into this minute, I asked you last minute, and I'll ask you again. Any overall thoughts about this particular minute? First impressions you had while watching it?
I really liked it. I think it was shot really well. I think the performances were pretty great, and actually my main point of this I think goes a lot into the next minute, but it's terrifying the way they shoot the height here. Normally I'm fine with shots like that, but while I was watching it, I was thinking, "Ooh, that's quite." And I only noticed this time round because I guess maybe I didn't watch it with headphones last time. But the stereo sounds quite good at that.
We've found that if you watch, I've watched this movie 100 times, like just on TV, HBO, just whatever. It wasn't until we were sitting down breaking this movie down minute by minute and using headphones that we were finding a lot of background noise, background dialogue, background music.
Yeah.
It's almost a different experience putting your headphones on.
I'll have to do that with About Time as well, I think.
It's just pretty cool though, because like in one scene, Gunny and his boss are basically in an office together arguing, and you can hear trucks driving in the background, military sounds like "Yup, march," like you hear all that. And I've never noticed that before. And one time, didn't we hear a band playing?
Yeah.
It was like a marching band, like out on the parade deck, but it was all outside the building. And we're like, well, it's got to be intentional. It's not like, they filmed on an actual military base, but, there's ways to edit these things out and make sure that, hey, quiet on the set, that, they must have put these like background noises in to make you feel you are on an actual base, which they were.
Yeah. Oh, so the great irony was, it's just like when you walk around a military base, they don't have military bands just playing all the time.
Yeah, right.
Which is weird. It was like, yeah, I know what it is, and we knew guys in the Marine Corps band, but they didn't just walk around playing. It was
right. They went to their either the parade deck to practice a parade, or they went to their office and practice.
Yeah, the studio. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's quite weird sometimes when you look at these sort of decisions that must be intentional, but you can't quite figure out why.
Yeah.
So, we talked last week about age ratings. Like when I was doing 2 minutes About Time, which will, at this time this episode comes out, will still be being released, but we've finished recording the show pretty much at this point. There's a scene in the Kate Moss gallery, and this film is rated 12 in the UK. A little bit of strong language and sex references, but that's it. And then they've got a topless picture of Kate Moss, like, right behind this pivotal scene. And apparently that's one of the main reasons that it got an R in the States.
Oh, how funny.
It's like, that's the only nudity in the film. That gallery was built especially for the film as a set. We spoke with the set designer, the set decorator and production designer, and it was an intentional decision. But why?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because back in the day, before they had PG-13, PG movies would have nudity in it.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
time.
They still do here sometimes. I mean, we had the Carry On films in the 60s. We had, I think, Kramer versus Kramer has a bit of nudity in it, if I remember.
I think it was like Smokey and the Bandit 3, I think, has like some nude scenes in it. I'm like, really? Smokey and the Bandit 3?
Yeah. That's the only thing probably going to get anybody to watch that piece of shit.
Well, right, exactly. I mean, it's just random, like, or even like Airplane had a couple
Yeah.
gags that were with nudity,
Yeah.
and they were just there, and it wasn't a big deal. And it's funny now, it's almost like nowadays they don't even put them in PG-13 movies; it's automatically an R.
Yeah, luckily, I think luckily, debatably, I guess it depends as to what side you stand. But I think we tend to be a little more lenient on that and look. I think in the UK we look a lot more at context for everything. Context of bad language, like if it's where I think in yours it's often you've said the F word how many times you got an R.
Right,
Whereas for us
exactly.
it's often okay. Like in About Time, I think it's 6 or 7 times you hear it, which was one of the reasons we got an R in the States. Whereas we were like, okay, well look at the context. Is this a sort of thing that would be appropriate? Who is likely to be watching the film? They take a lot more in depth and stuff like that. And I think it's the same with nudity. Monty Python's Life of Brian recently got rated 12A, despite there being full frontal male and female nudity. So, because that's natural nudity, I actually spoke with a guy called David Austin. He's the chief executive of the British Board of Film Classification. I was at a filmmaking event that he was at, and I was chatting with him about it. And he basically said there are very few 12-year-olds that will want to watch Monty Python. If they do, then they understand that type of comedy, and he's not going to stop those 12-year-olds from being able to watch it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a reasonable approach to it, I think, actually. I wanted to highlight something real quick before we get into basically the meat of this minute. We get 2 seconds of Lieutenant Ring attempting, and I believe he accomplishes this, to get in step with the rest of Recon platoon. He does that little shuffle, that little skip.
A few times, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I make a tiny brief interjection with your comment about Smokey and the Bandit 3?
Yeah,
I've just looked into that. That was originally rated 18 in the UK and then got down-rated to 15 in 2005.
Oh, really?
PG in the States, but was an 18 here. I've never seen Smokey and the Bandit, so I don't know what type of stuff it is, but it doesn't seem like the sort of film that would an 18.
Yeah, the first two are broad comedies, but I don't think there's any nudity in the first two. But the third one, they didn't have Burt Reynolds, so they were just like, let's do whatever we can to get somebody to watch it.
Yeah, and I imagine the reason why the rating is a little different there for 3 is probably because it's like if you're that young and you decide to watch, you need a reward for being able to sit through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Smokey and the Bandit original. PG, one mouthed use of strong language and mild language.
Yeah, see, it's not a bad movie.
Mild violence, sorry. Smokey and the Bandit 2, PG doesn't say why. And then Smokey and the Bandit Part 3, 15, moderate sex references and nudity.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I was just saying about how America seems to be more prudish on these things, but clearly in 2005...
I don't know. It's just funny because it was, that's because they haven't, like, that movie nowadays, if it was released, would have probably been a higher rating, but they don't go back and re-rate old movies.
Mm-mm.
It's just like, well, it was PG when it came out, so it's PG now.
Yeah, often we have the option when it comes into cinemas again, or if they want to come on DVD, they don't have to re-rate it. But often companies will be like, yeah, let's take another look at it, and I mean, stuff like Alien was 18 and is now 15. I'm pretty sure all the DVDs are still 18, but it's a good selling point to have a horror movie that's an 18.
Well, right, because like a lot of these movies are tame. They were like R, or even like MASH, like that was X because it was so bad, and it's so tame compared to movies nowadays that are lower rated. So it's just times change, movies change. Like it makes sense why it might be downgraded even, and I don't know. Yeah, so the majority of this minute is the briefing of upcoming upcoming minutes. These are Recon, First Platoon. I think that's really the only 2 platoons we ever see.
Yeah,
are involved. Major Highway. Jesus, Major Highway. That's if Clint Eastwood here would punch me right in the face for saying that.
Yeah.
Major Powers is giving a briefing to the 2 platoons at the very least, and It says each platoon will proceed to the objective, which is the battalion bear pit. I think because we recorded slightly out of order, and I mentioned the other night that when they get to the bear pit, I'm like, I don't think they ever mentioned that this was the objective. Well, I should have done my due diligence and realized that, yeah, no, as a matter of fact, they specifically call out the bear pit more than once.
Yeah.
So,
For a 72.
yeah, they get 3 days off if whoever gets there first. So I mean, Major Powers is a jerk in this movie. There's at least some incentive to train hard, work hard, have a little fun.
Yep.
So I mean, he does have a carrot at the end of that stick that he carries.
Hmm.
A bear pit, though. Perry, have you ever heard of a bear pit?
No, I haven't actually. Not in this context. No, I've never heard of what a bear pit is.
Yeah, the only thing I tried to look up bear pit, and I kept finding bear pit barbecue and reviews for that. So I don't think this is what they mean. I also found on Urban Dictionary that bear pits are armpits that smell like a bear, especially in the morning after a night devoid of deodorant.
Okay.
I mean, I get all that, but I think there actually is some sort of drug reference too to bear pit, but none of these apply to Battalion Bear Pit on Camp Lejeune / Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
We'll just have to go with this is a thing, and they all knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But I noticed on the chalkboard when at the time that Major Powers is discussing that, he has right up there when he points to the X or the pit or whatever with his little yardstick he's got there.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of stick, it says first stick, second stick on the chalkboard. And of course, let's see, a stick.
That's an Army term.
Yeah, it's oftentimes a load of paratroopers in one aircraft prepare for a drop. Oftentimes, a load of paratroopers in one aircraft prepare for a drop is also referred to as a stick, because there's a chalk and there's a stick. In the military terminology, a chalk is a group of paratroopers or other soldiers that deploy from a single aircraft. Chalk often corresponds to a platoon-sized unit for aerosol operations, or a company minus whatever. But then it says just a single load of paratroopers. It's like that's a stick. So it's like a chalk is like all of them in a group, and like this is stick one, this is stick two. So I assume the chalk would be both stick one and stick two together.
Yeah, but I don't know that Marines use those terms.
Well, it says that the term was first coined in World War II for airborne troops during Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of Europe. The aircraft flight number was placed on the troops' backs with chalk. Makes sense.
Gotcha.
It was later used during the Vietnam War when it was common practice to number with chalk the sides of the helicopters involved in the operation. In current military terminology, a chalk may mean either passengers or equipment. And then also, I saw something that specifically mentioned, I think, the 75th Army Ranger Unit. They use chalk for maybe in a certain specific term, like circumstances or something. But we have a few people that did like load G4 type stuff and all that, or right logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there'd be somebody we could have asked. They would know if that's a terminology. I don't know too many paratroopers in the Marines that I could ask. I know a few Army guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is one of those things where, because this was a holdover from them originally going to be in an Army
script.
Yeah. Nothing in what I looked up makes it says paratroopers. It doesn't specifically say Army.
Well, see, Marines don't have paratroopers; they have Marines.
Well, there you go.
That are jump called, yeah.
Yeah.
And we knew a bunch of Marines that were.
Oh yeah.
Jump called, but I don't ever remember using that terminology. That's the only thing that makes sense is that was part of the script somewhere.
Yeah.
It just never got changed because unless you lived it. But I mean, that's something we could probably dig around and find out.
Yeah, it's not something I'm too worried about right now, but I'd be curious if anybody knows if we're full of it. Just drop us a line in the quarter deck and tell us if we're right or wrong, if Marines use it or not. Right after that, we get Staff Sergeant Webster being a little kiss butt, and he's like, "Teacher, you forgot to assign us homework on a Friday right before we leave." He asked, "Sir, it would be an honor if you would accompany my platoon." And there's audible sighs in the gallery.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally hear somebody like, "Oh," and I think it's Collins and Forgetti. They just have Their eyes roll so hard they almost roll right out of their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Staff Sergeant.
Yeah.
But and if you notice, Chuzu and Highway both kind of have a meaningful conversation with just one look to each other.
Yeah. This fucking guy.
Yeah, they got some shorthand going on with that look, and they were just like, "Oh, brother." The look on Chuzu's face too is just like, "Oh, geez, this is gonna be great." And I love the smile on Staff Sergeant Webster's face when he was doing when Powers agrees to join him. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Cut to interior of the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Gunny calls the Marines forward and of Recon, and he's like, "All right, come on, let's go." And they start jumping out. And Luke, I don't obviously I wouldn't expect you to be aware of this. So this movie was filmed on Camp Pendleton in San Diego, California. Majority of the people you see as extras or in the background are real U.S. Marines that were stationed in Pendleton. They were hired and paid as extras.
That's cool.
It was twofold. They were extras to fill in the ranks, but they were also there to help the actors who are not Marines to be more Marine-like, and and kind of school them. So it was kind of smart of Clint Eastwood to do that.
Must be quite a nice sort of refreshing change of job as well for a bit.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because that's the thing. Like, I've actually found a few guys. Nobody that has talked about coming on the show, but I've on social media found a few people who were either stationed here at the time or actually were on screen. I found one guy that was like, he was there's a rappelling scene, and where the Recon's rappelling, but you see a couple guys go down the rappelling tower, and he's like, you can see me in the scene. And he goes, and then later when we're on the ground and the camera's up on the top of the tower, he's like, I'm standing to the left, and I think I know which one he's talking about. He was just saying, well, he goes, all I remember is I was told to show up and I got paid $60.
Well, Brian, we know a lot about tracking down extras.
Yeah, exactly.
As the listeners will find out. A good few weeks from now, in Brian's episode of 2 Minutes About Time, which, I mean, I guess is not really a spoiler to say. Basically, there was an extra we became weirdly obsessed with and spent most of the episode trying to research and find. We ended up not finding him, but we thought we knew what his name was until that was the name of a different extra. I've since spoken to that extra on the phone, and although he won't guest on the show, it's quite weird explaining to someone over the phone that they've been the in-joke for several episodes of a podcast.
Yeah, but that's pretty funny.
But actually, kind of a similar route to what you were saying about the Marines, though, is Adam Collins, who I was talking about before, who's the Hollywood stuntman / director. He's a filmmaker as well as an actor and a stuntman. He does everything, really. He was in the Royal Marines for 6 years, and a lot of the extras in his films are just people who've sort of war veterans and stuff who coming out to get a little bit of a role in another job. So often he's had actors and stuff who are injured or in wheelchairs or whatever. People who aren't necessarily that skilled in acting, but will have the odd line here or there, or will have an extras role just to give them something else to do, which I think is lovely.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's good.
So shout out to Adam Collins. I think his film Outlawed is on Netflix in the UK and Amazon Prime here. I don't know how much is in the States, but it's pretty easy to get hold of, and it's just a nice little film, an action film set in Nottingham. So
nice. Excellent. Awesome. Yeah, when I first got to, Perry and I were both stationed at Cherry Point in North Carolina, and when I first got there, I checked in on a weekend. So no, you can't check into your duty station till Monday morning. So they have to put you up in these temporary barracks. They call it what, a BEQ or something like that.
Yeah.
My roommate for that night was a Royal Marine.
Yeah.
They were in town for a joint exercise, and it was their last night there, and they had the biggest party. And I mean, and it was funny because here I am, I'm like an 18-year-old kid. Just picked up Lance Corporal. I show up to my duty station. I'm a little nervous. I don't know where to go. I've only been a Marine for a couple months at this point, really. And I'm like, these are men. These are like manly men. And I mean, they were hard drinking, hard partying. They were like, hey, come on down, party. I'm like, look, I just want to get situated. I appreciate it. But they were real nice, real cool guys. Like, well, we're just right down here if you need anything, It was so cool. But I was like, man, I'm like, these guys, I said, man, they know how to party.
I'm gonna say, imagine if you had partied and your first impression to everyone was you just completely hungover.
Yeah, that's. I was thinking. Seriously, that was partly crossing my mind. I'm like, like here I am. I'm like, I mean, first off, 18. You can't drink 18. In legally. I mean, these guys were. They were just. I mean, they had furniture all over the outside.
That's where we in the UK are different then.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I don't need to have my first impression at a new duty station. I was already kind of like, like I said, nobody really even knew I was coming. I just kind of showed up. So I'm I was like, as much as it would have, it probably would have calmed some of the nerves. I'm like, no, it'll just make things worse. So I was like, I'm just gonna go get some food. Like I don't travel well anyway, so I was like, I just need to like just kind of chill and relax. But man, they were out all night partying. But like I said, nice guys, real cool, real friendly, and it was just kind of neat. I'm like, so I always tell people that story. I'm like, oh yeah, I bunked with some Royal Marines for the night.
Yeah, I hung out with some Royal Marines when we were in Norway, and yeah, man. But I actually did party with some of them.
Yeah. Well, that situation, I would have been down too. That's totally different.
Yeah, they were cool. They were real cool. They would take and dig little snow forts, and they were selling beer.
That's awesome.
So is what we're getting from this that the Royal Marines just really like to party?
Yeah.
I know so little about all of this that, yeah, it's just.
Well, I look at it like this: you work hard, you play hard. It's that type of thing.
They were cool. They were really cool.
So those were real Marines jumping out of the helicopter. We actually got confirmation.
Oh, yeah, that was a heck of a tangent, right?
Just welcome to Marine Corps Movie Minute. The actors never left the ground. We get some, we'll hear it in Pete Koch's own words next minute. Let's just say they never left the ground. They got in a helicopter. It was all quiet. They had some crewmen shaking the
helicopter.
But these exterior shots and these shots of Marines actually parachuting are real Marines. It was like, and I kind of was saying I've spoken with a couple or seen people speak on social media about being there and being a part of this. And I know a few of them were like really excited about this movie because they were like, man, we're going to really show the world what Recon could do. And then they saw the movie and they're like, oh, they make us look like idiots. But they didn't realize it was going to be a comedy is my impression. I think, this is a comedy. I think people forget that, it's not all action all the time. It's not meant to be serious all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, even this little bit of business, it's a little bit of character development, but it's also meant to be funny. Here's Big Bad. All right, so Pete Koch, he plays the Swede. He's like, what is he, 6'5", he said?
Yeah,
he's like
giant.
This point, I think he was like 285 pounds. He was while filming this, he was an NFL defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs, actually. He's just a massive man, and yet they show him scared to jump out of the airplane while all these other little guys have already jumped. and I thought he did a good job of conveying, is a Gunny, I'm afraid of heights, like he's like, oh shucks, he does a good job of being this big, intimidating presence on the ground, and now he's just like a nervous, almost like a nervous kid, to jump out of the plane. What we get, and we don't get the full line, it cuts off, but Gunny's like, yeah, so am I. And he's, like, he's, and that's a little character development with Clint Eastwood. He's the guy that, in an earlier minute, Luke, the Recon Marines attempted to run Clint Eastwood off by having Swede beat him up, and it didn't go well for Swede. So it's funny that these two tough guys, well, they actually are scared of something, and they're
He's like, I am too.
Yeah, but that being said, I don't think Gunny Highway is going to have any trouble jumping out of the plane. But yeah, we'll talk more about that, or at least we'll hear more about it. I'm going to leave it for next minute.
He explains a lot with you saying that they were real Marine Corps people because, like I was thinking, there's no way that they got extras to jump out of an airplane.
No way.
I was thinking. I mean, I know how much extras often really want to be in the film, but I'd love to be an extra. I won't jump out of a helicopter for it.
No, exactly. Well, that's the thing. That was the benefit of training. Having the military, assist with the movie. They can do the things that a normal civilian or stunt. I mean, I'm sure stuntmen could do this just fine, but you're getting authentic Marines jumping out and doing exactly what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, they're getting paid for it anyway, so it's probably on the training schedule. It was like, hey, you mind if we take a camera out there? I'm like, we don't give a shit. It's not going to stop us from doing it.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, I'm sure they have to do so many jumps per whatever year or whatever. So it's like, hey, this is just one. It just happened to be, hey, I got $60 extra to do it,
Yeah,
and I get to be on screen, even though they think they don't know it's me.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have too much else. I'd like to kind of get to the next minute so we can finish the conversation about jumping out of planes, or I always say planes, but it's actually a helicopter.
Helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Luke, do you have any thoughts about this particular minute before we go to the next one?
I think most of mine lie at the next minute, really.
All right.
But I like the thing he starts to say at the end of this and carries on to the next. I think it was a good line, and I think this was the minute that made me realise that I want to see this film. So I will acquire it at some point. I will order the DVD today, hopefully.
Nice. We've done this a few times. Turn this movie on to a few people, or who hadn't seen it before, or had maybe seen it as a kid and really didn't remember it as good as they thought, and then we're like, hey, and pretty much everybody's had a positive take on it, right? Nobody's
kind
really
of
come
similar
back.
to what we had with About Time, really. Like some of the people have had. There was one person who saw the minutes of the film without the rest of the film and hated on it the whole time. Incidentally, have any of you guys seen the UK version of The Office?
Of The Office, I've seen only a couple bits of it. Yeah.
Okay,
I've never seen any of The Office. Never.
The guy who plays Big Keith in that, he's a reasonably big part. He came on my Facebook recommended friends list. I got in touch with him. He ended up coming on 2 minutes About Time without knowing anything about the film. Ewan McIntosh, lovely guy. Really didn't like it.
Oh.
It was but yeah, him being the only person who didn't like the film, and that was only based on the minutes he had, I'm taking that as basically that everyone who's seen the film likes it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, not to spoil what's coming up on your show, but
feel free, it's fine.
I would say I had not seen the movie prior to us discussing me coming on, so I watched it real quick, and I was like, "This is a great movie." I'm like, and I never would have watched it. There's no way I would.
It just seems like it's a romantic comedy, and that's
Yep.
it. It has so
Yep.
much more to it that it was the wedding scene that Ewan was on for. So
Okay.
it was a very romantic. It was a very Richard Curtis thing. I love Richard Curtis's work. Richard, if you're listening, hi. I love everything he does. I think he's a brilliant writer. But there are certain cliches that people expect in a Richard Curtis film. The man who wrote 4 Weddings, if you get a wedding scene, you think, it's Richard Curtis. But for the rest of the film, there's something so much more in it that it ends up being so much about family and the importance of life. It's not about time travel. It's not really about the love between husband and wife. It's about the love between friends, the love between father and son, and dealing with that sort of relationship. And Ewan didn't really get that from those minutes. But yeah, I guess I'll say to these people, they should watch About Time. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I love it. I did not like those scenes either, and if I only had watched that, I might not have liked it. I didn't like it dragged on too long, the wedding part, but everything else.
Which is weird because it's only about 10 minutes, but it's such a fast-paced film that
I know. It's just funny how that just it really probably, if I watch it again, it probably wouldn't even be that long to me. But
yeah,
like you said, it's really the time travel is just a little framing mechanism to talk about, like you said, family, and and of course I thought it was quite funny early in the movie too. There's a lot of
that's great.
Yeah, a lot of funny stuff. I really liked it. So.
And without spoiling stuff, it hits some real emotional moments as well. I mean, to talk about Richard Curtis, it's a slight possibility to shout out not just 2 minutes About Time, but my next show, which hopefully should be this Christmas. If it ends up going on, if I end up able to record it, it'll be next Christmas, where we're doing Love Actually as a day-by-day thing over Christmas.
Nice.
Which is obviously a lot more, which I think Love Actually is exactly the film that everyone thinks it is.
Yeah, right.
I still like it.
No, that's good. Great. Well, do you have any? Actually, yes. So, do you have any other plugs you want to cover before we wrap up?
I mean, I've just plugged someone else's film for the past 2 minutes.
I know, right? Yeah,
Not like
there
that.
we go. Yeah, no, great.
About Time is great, and if you like About Time, either way, watch it, find out whether you like it or not. If you like it, I recommend you check out 2 Minutes About Time. It's me and Robert E.G. Black looking at About Time 2 minutes at a time. We've had some great guests on, Brian included, as well as some people who aren't really the podcasting type. Ewan McIntosh from The Office, Doctor Who actor Simon Fisher-Becker, BAFTA-nominated director Piotr Skopiak, and illusionist Darren Brown, to name a few. And also, actually, my former film teacher. I don't know if anyone cares about that, but that was very exciting, talking to my former film teacher. Hadn't spoken to her for like 2 years, and she came on the show, so it was all of these episodes are still to come, I think, except Piotr and then Simon's. I'm not sure. I haven't checked the schedule. But either way, About Time is a great film. We talk about it, and basically everything else that there is in the same format as this, tangent after tangent after tangent. I think it's just, please check it out. And either way, if you listen to my show or not, I think more people should watch About Time. I think, especially now in the current climate, it's so important for a film that shows you just how wonderful life is, because no one's wanting to watch depressing movies right now. I know last episode I plugged my movie about a struggling addict and all of that, so probably a bad time to say it, but no one wants to watch depressing movies right now, I don't think, because it's obviously some people do, but I think I tend to prefer so much now to just watch happy, lovely films. And it's not just romantic comedy, it's about love, it's about family, and it, whilst making you cry at other moments because of how sad it is, makes you cry also because of how beautiful and happy it is, and just teaches you to appreciate everything about the normal day in life and all these little things. I think I heard that most people after seeing the film in the cinema went out and called their dads just to spend more time with them, which I think is, if a film can make you do that, then it's a film worth watching.
Yeah, it's a good one. I recommend it. Perry, you got anything?
Nope, I am good.
Yeah, me too. Once again, we're the Marine Corps Movie Minute. You can find us on Facebook and all the good places. So Perry, Luke, it will be an honor if you both accompany me on Friday's show.
Slick and smooth.
That's good. That's as good as it's going to get.
Say what?
Perry, Luke, it will be an honor if you both can accompany me on Friday's podcast.
Let
me try that
strong,
again.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Are you keeping this bit in too? Or?
You know what I do is I sometimes I'll cut the screw up and put it after the outro music. So it's like, so it's like you play the music and then it's like you might get a little tease of how badly I screwed up.
Hello to those of you who stayed past the outro.
Yeah. Okay, it's one more time.